I am Beth Moeller, Director of our Connect Community Living, and I'm going to be talking tonight about our Connect program. I am talking about primarily our PLB-funded limited supports, also called ISLA, Independent Supported Living Assistance. So some of you in the audience are going to be wondering if your person will be able to live independently in the future. And we talk a lot about what does independent mean. So none of us are truly independent. We all need other people. We need services. We need help in order to be safe and successful. So in this context, we are talking about somebody living away from their family in their own apartment or condo or home with some supports. So not 24/7, not every day. And so that's what we're talking about here. And the big question at the onset is oftentimes, can your family member live independently? And so there is no litmus test that it's yes or no. It's a very nuanced decision. The first question is, does your person want to live on their own in the future? So it's a very emotional decision as well. Like some people really want to be independent and want to live on their own. Others do not want to live with their family or in some other sort of situation. And then do parents, families want their person to live independently? So those are conversations to be having within your family. And the big question is, if somebody does want to live on their own, can they currently stay home alone? Like, is that not at all, an hour, a day? So if somebody really is working towards living on their own in the future, we have a whole program designed around it that I'll be talking about in a little bit, but that's the big question. Like, can they be home alone? And then if so, what supports do they need to be safe and successful? So that can be a wide range of things, but something to think about. And then who will provide those supports? So in this program called Connect, it is very much a team approach. It isn't that we as staff come in and provide all the supports. We work with families and friends and community members to figure out providing whatever supports are needed. Okay, so where we stand now. So we're going to talk about funding, but it's pretty simple. So Connect is a program funded by Productive Living Board in St. Louis County. The ARC, St. Louis ARC only provides these supports in St. Louis County currently. There are other agencies that provide this support in the city and St. Charles County and Jefferson County, but we're not talking about that tonight. Our program has been around for over 25 years, and we currently provide supports to 80 people living in their own apartment or condo or home all over St. Louis County, and it's continually growing. We grow incrementally, 5 or 8 or 10 people per year, and we've been on that trajectory for a long time. We have a team of 80 staff that provide these limited supports to people. And the goal is always that people are safe and successful living in their own place. We also have another program that it's called Pre-ISLA. It's people who are living at home who want to get ready to move out on their own. So figuring out whatever it is that they need to figure out in order to move out on their own. And it's a very small program, 8 people at a time. We have an amazing staff, Emma Burrows, who works with people one-on-one, figuring out like, what is your budget? Where do you want to live? What things do you need to learn in order to do that? Okay, so what do we do? The staff meet with people generally at their apartment or home and then go from there. So it's very much meeting people where they are and then figuring out what we need to do from there. So it is home-based in general, but it can be going to the grocery store, going to pick up medicine, going to the doctor, going to meetups to meet with other people. It's really anything that isn't work-related we can be involved in. PLB pays for job support separately, so we don't do anything employment-wise. What our primary focus is on is helping people set up systems to be safe and successful. So thinking through, what is your system for setting up a budget? What does your monthly budget look like? How do you monitor that? How do you stick to a budget? Like designing healthy eating. So our 80 people get their meals in many different ways. We have phenomenal cooks. We have people who know how to microwave. We have people who get boxes of food delivered and they make their meals from there. But we also have people who go to Schnucks and buy 6 prepared things for the week and that's their meal system. So every person is different. But we help try to figure out what is the best system for each person. Having a plan to keep apartments clean. So I am somewhat of the bad cop. I really am trying to enforce, which is a strong word, but enforce that people are keeping their homes relatively clean. Not spotless, but relatively clean. And how do you do that? Like, what's your schedule? What's your routine? And then transportation is always a huge, well, not always, oftentimes a huge issue of how do you get to the things you need to get to. So we work with people on learning to ride the bus or learning to use Uber or learning how to ask neighbors for rides or family members. So whatever that looks like for a person, we help try to figure that piece out. So staff work to help a person learn new skills to be independent. And a big thing that we see are that people may know how to do something, but aren't doing it without somebody saying, hey, let's clean up your apartment. Let's make your grocery list. And so we help people get started. I always say we do things with people. We don't do it for them. So as long as a person wants to participate and wants to learn how to do something and get it done, we are happy to help, but we are not there to do it for a person. And then a big piece of it in my mind is, what does a person's social life look like? What do they want it to look like? One of the things, I mean, it's common across the United States is isolation and loneliness, which only got significantly worse during COVID. So what do people want their social life to look like and how can we create that? So one of the things that we do are we have 3 or 4 meetups a month where everybody in our program is invited to come together for a meal or a barbecue or a movie and bring people together. So some more specifics about the supports. Generally, a staff person meets with somebody being supported once, twice, 3 times per week. We do have some outliers on that. 2 different situations right now. We have a family in our group owns an apartment building in Clayton where there's 4 apartments and we provide supports in those 4 apartments 5 days a week. And because the people are close to each other, we are able to do that. And then we have 8 people living in an apartment community out in Baldwin. And because everybody has their own apartment and they rent them individually from the apartment community. But because of the density of people, we are able to provide a higher level of staffing. So we are there Monday through Saturday, checking in with people. Just sometimes a check-in, sometimes more significant support, but to lay eyes on somebody 6 days a week is really helpful in some situations. So I hear this often, that the Productive Living Board funding funds up to 50 hours a month, which is 11 or 12 hours a week. And while that is accurate, I won't go into all of the details, but that is very constrained by schedules and participation. So schedules of people we support. So we support some people who work full time and may take a class. And so to find an additional 12 hours a week that person is available for supports really is impossible. As well as our 20 staff, trying to schedule 20 staff to support 80 people. Like the logistics of it doesn't work out. I mean, some people do get the maximum level of support, but it's an issue that comes up a lot. So I'm just speaking to that for a moment. So what guides these supports is that each person has a plan in place where they have identified usually the 3 or 4 most important things that they want to work on. And so that may be budgeting, that may be cooking, that could be exercising or getting healthier, whatever that is for the person. And then we really work to support people to achieve those goals. So it's different for every person, and it changes over time. In addition, some people may say, oh, yes, these 3 things are the most important, but then on any given day, other things come up, life happens. So we help people to deal with mail and phone calls and deadlines and, taxes and weather and whatever else comes up on a day-by-day basis. Lastly, these supports are provided in person. They're designed to be provided in person. Virtual option does exist. And some people we support have really been stable and successful for a long time, like years. And so we may be doing just a virtual check-in with them once a week or once every couple of weeks. But in general, this program is designed for in-person supports. Okay, so I've done many classes and conversations and meetings, and just a word on what people don't want. When I ask people we support, what's the number one thing they don't want? They don't want to be lonely. And I think every parent would say, I don't want my child to be alone or lonely. So a big piece of that is we really work on creating social options. I spoke about the meetups, which are coming back post-COVID. Pre-COVID, we had like 10 meetups a month, which was probably too much. So we're finding the sweet spot in that going forward. We also have a couple of parties each year, or a few parties. And so I always look forward to those. And secondly, a big concern of people whenever I ask is they are worried they won't have enough money, which is par for the course of today. So we're always working on how to support people with more resources and affordable housing. There's no easy answers. We do not own any housing at this time. Like, we help people rent on the open market. Very, very, very occasionally, we get access to a HUD subsidized apartment. We did just find one for somebody who was looking for a couple of years to find HUD subsidized housing, and they are successfully living in that location now, so we're super excited about it. And then lastly, what people don't want is uncertainty. So we are always trying to plan and look ahead and be strategic to help people feel secure and be able to be adaptable to whatever comes along. Okay, just a mention of a few different situations. So in general, I would say 3/4 of the people that we support live in their own apartment that they rent by themselves, sometimes with the help of their family, but they live in their own apartment. Others have a roommate where they share the cost of an apartment, which can help significantly. We do have every other month, a roommate meeting where we help people to identify what exactly they're looking for in a roommate and what they bring to the table. And we try to help people match up. We do maintain a spreadsheet of people who are looking. So that second option of people finding a roommate and sharing an apartment. We have also had 3 or 4 individuals renting a house together, and that presents both the pluses and minuses. So that does happen. And as I mentioned, of the apartment community where a number of people rent their own apartments, but within the same community, and that brings additional staffing benefits to it. The last box there is we continue to try to create other models. The ARC and its board is continually talking about how we can create additional housing options like an apartment building, but at this time that is not an actual thing. So hoping in the future. Okay, how does somebody qualify for this funding? So it's pretty simple. It's a St. Louis County resident and somebody who wants to live in St. Louis County, a diagnosis of a developmental disability, that wants to live in their own place with or without roommates. And then here is the big caveat, like a person has to be relatively safe to be on their own. And so that's very nuanced. Before we support anybody, I always meet with the person and their family and ask a lot of questions about safety and history of being on their own. As I mentioned, Connect only provides supports in St. Louis County. There are other agencies that provide supports in the city and the other counties, which brings me to the last item. So we support in total like 90 people right now, people between the ISLA and the pre-ISLA program. And we have a waiting pool. So we don't call it a waiting list because it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's people that we're in conversation with who have identified they want us to provide supports and they want their person to move in the future. And they're waiting for a variety of things. They might be waiting to try to find a roommate. We are at capacity right now, but as I say, we grow a little bit each year. A person may be waiting to get a job so they have enough money to move, a variety of situations. So if this is you and you're interested in having further conversation about it, I am the person to contact about the ISLA program and general overall questions. My email is bmoeller@slark.org. And then Emma Burrows is our coordinator over the pre-ISLA program. And her email is on the screen here, eburrows@slark.org.
there was a question about if your services were income dependent.
No.
And what was the age requirement for the programs?
18 and above. So much to my surprise, we just had an 18-year-old move into his first apartment, and he's doing amazingly well. He's very mature. So everybody who gets on that waiting pool, in that waiting pool, meets with us in person. So it's not just fill out a form and get in the waiting pool. Like, we have a meeting and sit down and talk about goals and safety and what that looks like before we put anybody in the waiting pool.